that we're doing, and the live today is basically just me having a meeting with George, discussing a number of things, actually, various things going on today. So what we're actually involved with at the moment, as far as our conversation is concerned, is basically to do with marketing and how we're marketing our various products, as far as the deals that we bring to the table and how we do that, and how we can bring it to a wider audience and grow our business and help more people, reach more people. So this is basically what we're working on, and one of the things that we've been talking about is reaching a clientele that's more used to doing deals or having successes in their lives, or educated, if you like, because we want to be doing business with, we don't want to be doing business with people's only savings. We don't want to be doing business with the only money they've got. We don't want to be doing business with a windfall they received.
And we don't encourage people to do business with the last pennies or the last pounds they have in the account.
Very good, George. Thank you very much.
That's exactly always a reminder.
What it's all about. Yeah, it's very much about not working with people where there's so much stress and the decision has got to be so right for them to take that decision, and so it becomes what's commonly thought of and known as frightened money. And it's very difficult to work with. There's a lot of responsibility, and there's nothing wrong with the responsibility, but the fact is there's a lot more maintenance around those kind of customers, because it's so they're not used to that type of thing, and basically they have what we call a shopping mentality. So when they're with us, and it's like they're shopping for shoes. There's no business relationship built up at all, really. It's more like we're the shopkeeper there to run around at their beck and call, and it kind of doesn't work like that. So basically what you're looking at is a scenario where it's two business people who understand there's a developing relationship, mutual respect both sides, trust, familiarity, and a comfort zone, and above all, professionalism. And so that's the kind of working relationships that we look for with our investors, and indeed the people that we do business to get and receive properties from. So so that's what's going on as far as that's concerned. But what we are actually in the middle of discussing is how we put together a program to increase our reach, and how we can potentially develop a program whereby if you're sitting in Derby or Newcastle under Lyme or Canterbury in Kent, for instance, and you want a deal, that we can come to an arrangement how we can basically supply you that deal and how that could actually work. So how we would find out your specifications of what you were looking for, that's your KPIs, key performance indicators, and then we can go out and we can find a deal that's going to suit that, and we can basically send it to you. We can negotiate it with the vendor, and we can put you in a good position. There's a lot of people out there that are not comfortable with negotiation, or there's a lot of people that are not comfortable with the professionals, or there's a lot of people that are not comfortable with the builders. None of us are comfortable with the builders.
Don't say that loud.
Don't say that out loud. Oh my goodness. I know we actually have some really good networks of people, and people who need tradespeople at a very high level across the country to do with their networks, that we're actually in conversation with to connect with them, so that we can connect with quality tradespeople, trusted, professional. They have a professional enough entity that they're not coming to you for money to get the buildings, get the project started, things like that. They can put the work down, you pay them. They put the next work down, you pay them. That type of thing and that sort of professionalism is required. And so we are we're working out how we can potentially, believe it or not, tap into a network of those people around the country. So that's what we've the type of things that we work on and what we sit here thinking and plotting and planning as far as how we can bring our services to more and more people, as far as helping them get into good, solid, safe property investments. So yeah, that's what's going on there. So today here we are, we're discussing if anybody's in digital marketing or marketing and wants to chip in, by all means, or if you want to tell anybody about this who might want to have an input on what we're discussing, then by all means communicate. That's what we always say. So we're discussing the merits of how we get seen by more people, and potentially that would give us the ability to get to a point whereby we're more or less talking to or reaching most towns and cities in England, and also how we can potentially work out a situation that satisfy their needs from a deal, and how we can help supply it. One of the things with property investment is the time involved. So if you've got professionals around you that can help, that is a massive saving. Now, you'll have heard me say this many times. If you want, there are some amazing property educators out there. In fact, I would guess, I haven't seen any bad ones. I've heard about them, but I haven't seen them. But I would guess that the majority of all the educators out there, whether I've met them or not, are actually doing a very good job. Because quite honestly, property is one of those things whereby it's the different strategies are pretty straightforward. It's not rocket science, really. And so, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not totally easy. Sorry, George.
We can throw some names there, if that's okay. And sorry for the background noise. So
yeah, no problem. Well, all right. Names in property that we would totally recommend: property education. You've got Cam Davidi at Premier Property and his family team, his wonderful wife, son. They're all there. Absolutely amazing education. Ranjan Bhattacharya from Baker Street Property. Yeah, very good. And Andrew. Absolutely excellent, fantastic networking in London with both of them all the time.
Simon
Zucci, of course, with Property Investors Network. Those things are going as strong as ever, I think, from what I can see after the turmoil of the last few years. And I know I've personally been to several pins in London in the last year, and same quality, same standard of people operating them, running them, and attending them, and talking to people from the stage and everything. Absolutely, just solid, really, really good.
I think Rob and his team.
Rob, Progressive, absolutely.
Yes, Progressive, that's
Rob,
the one. Rob
Moore, and despite everything that he's doing as far as his broadcasting, if you like, or lives that he's doing, underneath that, they've got a 24/7 property business going along, but also a property education business. So that's very, very good. You've got Mark Ianson at Dominate the Ground. That's another excellent one. And one that I would mention is, I'll still mention his name because I'm never a great fan of the subject of serviced accommodation, as you're fully aware. For anybody that's seen this before, I think there's a lot of people out there selling fantasy and myth. It's just, so much of it is absolutely rubbish. And the products you can buy and the people that are selling the stuff online and everything, there's so much of it is absolutely rubbish. And the figures are just absolute fantasy land. However, for the right situation, you get it right, right circumstances, right person doing it, right skills, all the rest of it. There is a business there. There's no question about it. That can prosper, and so that's that. And one person who teaches a lot of that, of course, is Samuel Leeds. However, I'm not really getting behind much of the essay stuff, but I know he talks about other things. So I think he's got such a big place in the education thing, he deserves a mention. He's obviously a very tenacious guy, and in all honesty, all those property people can talk about the strategies and the things you do, but it always is going to boil down to what you can do on your own, doing your business to make it happen. And quite honestly, I'll be quite happy to put this straight out there. There's only one person, and if anybody who wants to communicate, by all means do so, and I'll absolutely will message you right back with the name. There's only one person who's going to pick up the phone as far as being part of their mentorship is concerned.
Yeah, that's true.
There's only one person. I've been with several, and their education is fantastic. Mentorship, picking up the phone when you need it, when you've got that thing going on a Monday morning, or you need to know what to say to the lawyer next, or how do you do it because the lawyer's saying something else. A quick catch up on how that works. You know, that is absolutely not happening in my experience, apart from with one person, and he is unbelievable, and he's right there. Actually, another property education entity that I should mention as well is, of course, Suzanne Cole out in Bristol there, doing a phenomenal job of what she does. She's absolutely amazing as well, has a slightly different take on it than a lot of the others I know, and she's a firebrand, a massive bundle of energy and capability. There's just no question about it. She's absolutely one of those people that's a little bit force of nature. There's no doubt about it. And those people, it's quite amazing actually when they're all quite unique in their way.
Daniel Hill.
Daniel Hill.
Yeah.
Well, I'm literally very familiar with Daniel Hill's blueprint and everything and how that works, and I refer to it as far as his blueprint, how to do business. He basically just puts it all out there. There's so much free information out there if you're a person that can put it into action. However, I was going to say the personalities behind the property educators is really quite fascinating, I think. You've got Rob Moore, who has got a big part of the artistic brain in him, and him connecting with Mark and his money. And that's just something that those two obviously made the magic. Rob is very good at people person, all the rest of it, doing what he does as far as that's concerned, and they probably built the biggest business out of all the people that I've mentioned, and have the most ambition. They want to take progressive property global, which is quite incredible, but it's totally scalable. Let's be honest, you just get loads of the right people involved, and let's be honest, Rob and Mark are rarely at the progressive events, and so they truly have scaled it. George is nodding his head there, but maybe
I think they are there quite often, yeah, most of the times.
Not usually.
Okay, yeah.
They're not.
All right.
You know what I mean? So,
We'll ask them.
there
Are you there every day? Yeah.
no, there's weekends and things that they're not showing up at them. They've got their teams who do a fantastic job. They've got Kevin and McDonald, Kevin McDonough, the Irish guy, small,
Still young.
Irish, massive bundle of energy, doing a phenomenal job. He's an absolute pinnacle example of somebody taking something and just running with it and milking everything he possibly can out of it in the best way possible. So yeah, absolutely fantastic. And then Cam Davidi, absolutely the depth of his knowledge on air, so many different tiny little intricacies of everything is really, really. I've watched him. I was with them, so I've spent a lot of hours listening to Cam Davidi, and in his company, the company of his events and things like that. And I would say he's encyclopedic. His knowledge as far as being able to do things, knowing his business, and also being able to handle and manage situations, and basically how to handle this, that, and the other, all the rest of it. And out of all the people that I've spoken to, there's one thing I'll say about Cam. He came from behind his sofa at home when he was a youngster, quite shy is my point. And basically, I don't care what most people have got as far as obstacles in the way of what they want to do. There is nobody had any more obstacles than he had, or people knocking him down at the beginning, or making it difficult for him to just walk into an agent's and do what he wanted to do. Young guy in East London all those years ago, plucky, had some sort of thing going on, gene in his mind that he'd been put in there by his Saturday job, I think, he told us, and an old guy that worked there. But he absolutely has fought all the way. And so how he did that, and I think it's an incredible story, I really do. There's so much there with that guy, there's no question about it. Now then, moving on, so who did he do? We talked about, Samuel. You can tell how Samuel just keeps talking and talking and talking, because he was a preacher from about 12 years old. So this is a skill that he brought to the table, and he's an incredibly resilient person, and there's just no knocking him down from what I can see. He just keeps going. He's always got an answer, he's always got a plan, and he's going and going and going and going. And I can only admire that. And I will say one thing about everybody that I've seen. I've never met the giant guy myself. I've seen his videos, I've heard a little bit of the turmoil, but I've never ever met anybody who had anything negative to say about him. So, I mean, it's just total credit where it's due as far as that's concerned. Please take this just at face value. I don't know the complete intricacies of any of these people as far as their business in depth is concerned, but face value of what I've experienced with them. And then Mark Ianson, ex-British Army. What can I say? He can do anything. Well, that's basically the way he sets out. He chooses to do quite a narrow section of property, but he's British Army. If he's got a challenge, he's just going to go and get it done, isn't he? He's just going to go for it and not stop. He actually has got an absolutely intricate knowledge, definitely maybe even more than Cam on this basis. I would have it difficult to say more, but certainly equal to putting small flips together. That's basically what the whole of his business is about, and that's what he does. And that's what he teaches his followers, and all the rest of it, and it's absolutely amazing. So, who else did I mention? I think that's it basically. Daniel Hill, yeah, he's got his blueprint and all the rest of it. But the point I was going to make was, you can by all means go and spend invariable amounts of money for £3,000 to £10,000, £20,000 with these people, and you can get an amazing education on property and how to do what to do, this, that, and the other, and you can come out of that fully equipped if you're the kind of person who's still got the resilience to interact and communicate with agents, people, vendors, etc., etc. There's a big part of person involved there. Now, you could say, well, I know some people in property, and I wouldn't exactly describe them as people, but they have a tenacity and they have a way of interacting, communicating that kind of achieves what they want to achieve. So there's something there with all of them. Now then, however, if you want almost a second job and you want to take up all that time and spend all that time going along to those events and becoming this highly educated property person, and you want to take the chance of, once you've got all that information, can you actually pull it off? Then, and then you know, this is something you're working at every day, every week. If you're not, then it's highly going to happen, because they will say you can do it on a couple of hours a day or a couple of hours a night and everything, but believe me, there is a huge amount of work involved. There's a bit of luck involved, there's no question about that. That kind of goes for life anyways, and you do make your own luck. But it can be a while before you get your first breaks, and how that happens. Like anything in life, second, third and fourth one is a lot easier. So I would disagree with most of them in saying one thing: it's a lot more work than any of them say, really. There is that amount of work involved.
Way much more.
Okay.
Way much more, yeah.
And anyways, what I'm getting around to basically is the fact that there is another way, you could call it the executive way, where you just appoint or delegate someone to do it. You just, you know, suss out your person, find out your the person or entity, like ourselves or one similar, who you want to pay to do your property journey. Now, as far as that's concerned, I'm not actually going to go into a lot of spiel about why you should come and work with George and I. Communicate anytime you like to know more about that. It's not what I'm on about this morning. This, in actual fact, is basically you just seeing what, as all these are, is just what's going on in our business today, what we're talking about, what we're on about. We're actually going to be talking about the marketing, as I said. I seem to have got into the industry, and I will just go about this for a few more minutes and just finish off where I started at least. So what I was saying was, you can spend a huge amount of time, or you can go and choose carefully, find somebody else to get involved. Now, when I am paid to find your properties, do your properties, achieve that, when I'm saying that, you've got to check them out carefully. But also, you want a scenario where your money that you're putting into these things is actually secured on the property that you are purchasing. And that's, from my mind, is critical. I'm not saying there aren't other ways of doing this, but you need to be incredibly careful. Buying properties with developers, from what I've seen, is not a fantastic way forward. You've got the whole scenario with issues with ground rents and service charges, which of course were just being abused in recent years, over the years, as far as multiplying ground rents every 10 years, these things like that, and these service charges, and the fact that you're paying for this blasted thing so much money that all the profit's been taken out of it in the next decade on growth. So there is that to it. I mean, I bought a brand new property off plan 30 years ago in Scotland, on a harbour in Lossiemouth up in Morayshire. Very fortunately, I must be one of the luckiest deals I ever did. That sold. I bought it in 94, 93, it was nothing. Built for 94, I think I moved in about 94. Then sold that in about 2006, so what's that, 12 years, and it almost doubled in price. That must be one of the luckiest scenarios you're ever coming across. But it was a smaller company, and it was a smaller project and all the rest of it, and it had a buoyant property market up there in Morayshire with the RAF camps and everything. But it's only now, years later, when I look back and realise how fortunate I was with that. But by and large, you do not want to be getting in with developers. You do not want to be, that's the big developers, and paying money or getting stuff off site, off plan, and you know, it's not even going to be built for another 18 months, that type of thing. Who am I? I shouldn't necessarily be saying you shouldn't, but just be extremely careful and do your sums. And another one that you need to look out for at the moment, if you're thinking about having anything to do with property, and that is, I've talked about serviced accommodation, I would say there's almost as many red flags in this state now around some of the social housing deals that are going around Um, these, there's many of them, and the tales that we're hearing about some of them,
Just
with the incredible percentage margins that they're making, which I was impressed by at first, and I thought it all seemed fair enough. But the more I heard, the more I looked into them, the more I realised. And then when I saw the next products they were on to, I realised there are some absolutely thoroughly dodgy operations going on out there. So just be careful. George, did you want to add anything to that?
yeah,
You were gonna
we
say
probably
something?
going to hear about that in the news in the next year or so. But unfortunately, we cannot say more than that if that makes sense. So yeah, there's you always have to be careful what you choosing and how to manage your the stress level, because when we were discussing earlier about how people some people invest their money, it's not only the money which they will lose, they lose a lot of time and they lose a lot of effort, and also the stress can affect them. So we never recommend people without experience to invest with anyone on the street, if that makes sense. So we always ask them to be careful, extremely careful, even if they are very careful. And
I've seen some of these agreements, and we've spoken to legal people and people from the financial industry, and literally people that communicate with us about potentially investing in various things. And I was talking to them about these. They've looked into them, and it just doesn't stack up with some of them. The numbers and the contracts and the assurances. Most of them are saying that they're government backed. They're not government backed.
there's no such a thing, unfortunately.
There's only three of these companies in the whole country apparently that are actually direct to the government. The rest of them that are running around saying they're government backed and guaranteed and everything is they're not. And I've even heard about some companies doing like long, up to 25-year deals. Well, quite honestly, nobody can assure you that the local council is going to be doing anything for that length of time, never mind even the government or anything else. One thing
Yeah.
we know, especially in property, look at the way the government turned on private landlords and things like that back in the day with a thing called S24, which was basically where, for those of you not familiar with business, usually you have your income, you have your expenses, and you're taxed on your profit. All of a sudden, for the first time ever possibly since window taxes or whatever god awful thing back in centuries ago, equally as unfair, Mr. Osborne decides he's going to tax you on the full amount of your income. Then you can take your expenses off, which probably just don't leave any profit. So that was the scenario that was brought in, and you've got to be very careful. So to expect the government to be behind anything that they're going to guarantee for 25 years is just kind of, what can possibly go wrong in life. It often does. And
It,
so
it's
just
not your
doesn't make
friend.
sense.
That's what we need to remember. Government is not your friend. It's not necessarily your enemy, but definitely it's not your friend.
Fair enough. What can I say? I'm not from Eastern Europe, but at the same time, I didn't have that upbringing, but at the same time, I don't think you could really disagree with that. Government doesn't seem to be our friend sometimes, does it? That's all there is to it. And it doesn't matter who gets in next. We're talking about in general.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's something to be very, very careful of. And as far as the social housing thing is concerned as well, often it's small amounts of money. It's as much money as a lot of people have got. They're putting them into these things, and there's some surprises coming. There really are. I spoke to several people who were just intrigued at how these business model works. They've really gone to home the town on looking at them and looking inside them and speaking to literally the social housing departments in councils and government, and they just can't see how these people are making money. Now, one thing that is absolutely shocking in this country apparently is the fact that we have a serious fraud squad that deals with who's going to be doing naughty things that can affect the country and the well-being of, and that's, you know, apparently they can handle about a dozen cases at once, so it's big stuff. Then you've got I think there's something in the middle like regular fraud or whatever, and there's nobody really dealing with that. And then you've got an answer machine. That's the sort of thing when somebody does a chargeback with you, and no, it's a fraud action group or something where you call and you leave your problem on an answer machine that nobody really is bothering to do anything with. It's just mind-boggling. And so this is the sort of thing that you might call about you're being ripped off with your credit card, chargebacks and things like that if you're a small business. And then you've got the police station. Try calling the police station about something financial that you got ripped off from, and good luck with that. So ultimately these people can operate with impunity without any sort of worries, because there isn't anybody that's really set up to come and tackle them and say, excuse me, that you are breaking the law and you're taking advantage of people and you're taking people's money without proper due diligence and without a proper business model and without a situation that is credible. That basically means that they're talking about something that is going to end up going into the wall as far as the financials of the business model is concerned. Now, you might have heard that sort of language before, coupled with that lovely Italian word called a Ponzi scheme. Well, yeah, let's just leave it at that, just to finish that subject now, because that's exactly what I've heard going around about some of these social housing operations. So anyways, there you go. Maybe it doesn't sound so cheerful, but guess what? It's great that it's out there and you're aware of it, and please, if you're putting money down, make sure your security for that money is absolutely rock solid, ideally on the property. So, moving on, we were talking about our marketing and ideally connecting and speaking with a lot of people through this medium. And then there's, well, what else is there, George? What are the other avenues that you're working with?
We might have a short break. The reason is that we want to post this as well for everyone to see, not just on the live. We have a short break and come back in a few minutes.
Okay, great. Okay. Absolutely. All right. You heard it, folks. We'll see you in a short while. We'll come right back and discuss the marketing more.
I'm just trying to turn this off. It's right here, yeah?
Okay.
Is this one or not?
I can't see it.
It's amazing how people are looking for TikTok.
What are you looking for?
To turn this off.
Top right?
Yeah, we're trying, but it's not working.
Why don't you just put the device off?
It's a good idea.
Sorry about this, guys. We'll be back in a few minutes.